You are now listening to the Fantasy Whisper podcast with your hosts, Johnny Game Time Hicks and Big Travie.
Why, hello, and welcome to the Fantasy Whispers podcast. I'm Johnny Game Time Hicks, and that is my co-host, Big Travie. Today we have such an awesome episode. I'm truly excited about this one. We're talking quarterback ones, 1 through 10. We are your Fantasy Whispers, here to whisper those sweet, sweet fantasy secrets right into those eardrums of yours. What do you think, Big Travie?
I'm pretty pumped for this episode too, Johnny. That's right. Talking about the top 10 fantasy QB options heading into the 2018 season. What we've kind of done here is compiled me and John's rankings and then averaged them out. And we're going to talk a little bit about where we're different, where we're the same, and what you can be expecting from these guys. Now, remember, these aren't concrete rankings because things in the offseason and in training camp, injuries can come in, crazy trades. We've seen it all. As this happens, our rankings will change. And so just stay tuned to the podcast, obviously, but also head over to the fantasywhispers.com where our rankings will be updated every week.
Yes, that's very, very true. But also I want to mention, if this is your first time with us, first off, thank you so much for joining the Fantasy Whispers podcast and live show. Please leave a comment in the comment section. We'd love to give you guys a shout out. You can also follow us on Twitter at TF Whispers. You can find our podcast on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher, or you can head on over to the fantasywhispers.com. And we have, again, all of our rankings and all of that, and you can get to all of our social media accounts. All right, Travis, without further ado, let's jump right in here. We got our number one quarterback. We're talking your boy, Aaron Rodgers.
Yes, the fantasy Jesus Christ himself, if I may say so. Aaron Rodgers, man, what can you say that hasn't been said about Aaron Rodgers? I feel like every year we're coming in and we're talking about how he's going to be the undoubted number one. I mean, you just look at the numbers, it's hard to argue with. 4 out of the last 5 seasons, he's had 38 or more touchdown passes. He has been the focal point of this offense since he was named the starter back in 2009. And now he's reunited with the guy they won a Super Bowl with in 2011, and that's Joe Philbin. So that was also the guy who brought him that first MVP trophy with the 15-1 season where he put up astronomical numbers. So I expect kind of a reuniting going on there that really should boost his fantasy numbers yet again. Not that they need that much boosting. Besides his never dipped below 250 rushing yards in a season since 2009 mark. And my only concern really is the line play there in Green Bay. It's a concern as a fan. It's a concern as an owner of Aaron Rodgers. And he's now broken 2 collarbones, and you could say partly because maybe he holds onto the ball too long or the line play. What are your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers coming into the year, Johnny?
I mean, as far as the offensive line goes, I'm not too concerned. Again, it's Aaron Rodgers. We've seen him play behind a terrible offensive line before. I'm not really concerned. I'm not even concerned for his turnovers, as he's never had more than 11 interceptions in a single season. So that's outstanding. And that happened back in 2010. So that was like a while ago. He hasn't had double-digit turnovers in a good amount of time. He has really good matchups going into this year. I really like his schedule. It's super friendly. He's a very accurate quarterback. He's 65% completion percentage over the life of his career. And when he's healthy, and that's on average of like, if you say like over 400 snaps is what I'm gauging here. His floor is 3,800 passing yards easy. And then you add the fact that who he has around him. And yes, he did like lose Jordy Nelson, which happens to be like one of his best wide receivers over the last few years. And, super reliable and the guy he could go to in the clutch and, could catch every throw he throws his way. And I could go on and on about Jordy Nelson all day. This guy's a beast. Okay. But the fact is that before, when Jordy Nelson went down, he didn't really have another number one option. Well, Devontae Adams is there. and he's the number one option. And through, as you know, through your research and through my research, and we'll get to Davante Adams when we get to the wide receiver section in a couple weeks, but Davante Adams is a beast. And so I absolutely do not have any question as whether Aaron Rodgers should be number one in this rankings. I'm not afraid of anything that could possibly be thrown at him. He's got a lot of targets, like we said. He's got a good quarterback schedule. He's been on top before, and he's one of the most consistent quarterbacks. So Aaron Rodgers, hands down, number one guy in my books. If I'm drafting,
I
ahead.
think the other thing to talk about with Aaron Rodgers is since he draft, he's always played with a chip on his shoulder, always had a bit of an attitude. You don't think that after breaking his collarbone and, he kind of had some words for Anthony Barr after that game against the Vikings, you don't think he's going to come out pissed this year trying to throw that ball all over the place? I look for Aaron Rodgers to be scorched earth, so to speak, this year.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if he just lights up the entire world. All right, we're going to move into our second quarterback here, and I'm going to kick it off with Russell Wilson. This guy, I doubt him every single year, and at the end of the year, I look back and I'm like, why did I doubt this guy? He's super, super consistent, and one of the main reasons is not the fact that he throws a lot of touchdowns. Don't expect him to throw a lot of touchdowns. He's actually only thrown over 30 touchdowns twice in his career, and last season was that season. But 32 touchdowns is the max he's ever thrown. It's the reason he's so consistent and has that high level is because he has all those rushing yards. His offensive line is terrible. And so he has to run. He has no other choice. There's no big name wide receivers. You could say Doug Baldwin, but is Doug Baldwin really like a fantasy star? Like a fantasy, not a fantasy, but just an NFL star wide receiver. If he went to a different receiving group, I doubt he'd be the number one. He'd be more likely the number two. And so one thing I do want to caution, and like this goes along with my quarterback philosophy, which I'm sure we'll touch on a little later, and that is he's just too much of a risk for me when I'm picking in those early sections because he's going to be one of the top two off the board. So that means you're going to probably have to pay a fourth rounder or above. Well, as we all know, like my boy Tom Hanks said it, well done! This is exactly how you're left feeling through the first 4 games of every single season, with exception of just 2 seasons out of his whole career. Other than that, all the other seasons, he's started off extremely slow. So I just can't I can't afford to start off really slow. I can't afford my quarterback to start off slow. Will he pick up? Will he have a good season at the end of the year? I'm sure he will. I'm sure he'll be a top quarterback, but I just can't risk losing those first 4 games. You know how important it is to get off the bat, get out running quickly. And if your quarterback's not getting you those points, it's really hard to do so.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about our theory on fantasy quarterbacks as we get closer to drafting time. And I think for me, like if you're talking about a guy that's going to be killing it towards the end of the year, that's fantasy playoffs time. That's the time you need him the most. So yeah, spare me the first 4 weeks. I'll get it figured out before then. We're talking about a guy who led the league in touchdowns last year. He led his own team in rushing yards. His own team as a quarterback, he led them in rushing yards, 586 rushing yards. So he's got
that's because Seattle has terrible running backs.
That's fine. And they didn't, they drafted Rashad Penny.
It's going to go down. It's going to go down.
Like here's, it will go down, but how much? I think Seattle realizes what a superstar he is, what a franchise quarterback he is. They'd love to keep running this offense through him. Yeah, you talk a little bit about his line play. It was terrible, atrocious, I know. But in the 6 years that he's been there, he's never missed a game.
Yeah, and they just did add Brandon Marshall today. That is true. They just signed him not too long ago. Actually, I don't mind this at all. I think he could be a late round flyer. I thought he had a little bit of juice last year left in the tank.
I think it adds a little bit back of what you lose in Jimmy Graham as far as a red zone threat. Mm-hmm. If the running back game doesn't pick up and they've got to toss it up to a big body, Marshall's had this skill of doing that before in the past. So Thanks for the comment there, Corbin. We do like that addition. But like I said, I think, he hasn't missed a game in 6 years, and, there's concern with the line play. The guy's been sacked 40 plus times in 5 straight years.
Yeah,
Oh,
I definitely
have
have
love for Brandon Marshall.
Yeah,
up there,
I'm surprised Nick's not jumping on here like all over it.
Fair enough.
All right, so let's jump on over to our number 3 ranked quarterback, and I'll let you kick this one off here because you have a little bit of discrepancy already.
Yeah, so our number 3 jointly together is Cam Newton. I'm just a little bit lower on him than you are. He led the league in 2017 in quarterback rushing yards. Carolina as a unit continues to say through Ron Rivera that they don't want him running as much. Yet last year he ran for the most attempts, or the second most attempts by a QB in the Super Bowl era. So, they continue to say they don't want him to run, and yet he continues to run. I think they realize what works there. He's a big body. He can take these hits, and he can move the ball forward. It's a Cam-dominated offense. So I like him to continue to be, within the top 5, maybe even the top 10. My concern is more about his durability, McCaffrey's durability, and the lack of wide receivers that they have there.
See, okay, I'm going to stop you there, okay? Because I'm the major reason why, because the way we weight our system, I'm the major reason why Cam is at that number 3 spot. And let me tell you why I think he deserves to be that number 3 spot. Okay, when you think about Cam Newton in his career, you think, oh, he's this super up and down kind of quarterback. He doesn't produce like I think he should. And his games are not fancy, right? Like it's like down and dirty. At the end of the game, like you didn't think he did anything. And then he ends up, you look at his point total and he gets you like 25 points. Well, he's got a major base in the fact that he can run like you touched on. Okay. They didn't bring anybody in there that I'm concerned about taking as goal line carries. Like, come on, CJ Anderson, you're going to tell me that you're afraid of CJ Anderson taking some goal line carries. He couldn't do it in Denver. There's not going to be a good chance that he could do it in Carolina behind that terrible offensive line, which leads me to my next point. This guy's going to be running for his life. Okay. Just like Russell Wilson, he's got a really bad line, so he's going to have to run. And if he doesn't run, he's got a lot of weapons, dude. Greg Olson's coming back. You have Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield. Okay, you say he's not durable, but he lasted all last season. He was fine. You have Devin Funchess. You just got, did we just talk? Oh, here we go. That's right. They have DJ Moore. This guy's gonna be his go-to receiver. He's got hands of gold. Okay. So I think his options are fine. You talk about him finishing. There's only been 2 times he hasn't finished as a top 5 quarterback, only twice. And on those 2 times that he didn't finish as a top 5 quarterback, he was injured. He didn't play all the games. So you're just telling me pretty much if he plays all of his games, he's going to give me top 5 return. I like that. And I think he's falling.
That's where I have him ranked. So like there's a lot that I agree with you on with Cam Newton. You look at his career in the 7 years that he's been doing it, he has 30 points or more in 18 games. I like what he brings to the table. He's a for sure top 5 guy for me. I think my problem comes that if he had just at least one elite weapon or 2 elite weapons, like how much more could he be? Could he be that top 2? Could we be talking about him instead of Russell Wilson?
Probably not, actually, because he's not accurate. Like he's not a good accurate.
Yeah, but
thrower.
He can hook the deep ball. Like if think like a Brandon Cooks or an OBJ, like you pair him with somebody like that, I think you're getting to that top tier. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think he's just a gamer. So I was looking at a lot of his numbers, and just like you said, the floor is so high because he has all those rushing attempts. He does. One thing to take in consideration is the fact that his playoff schedule, he plays New Orleans twice and Atlanta. It's kind of difficult, but I think he should be.
Isn't that crazy? Just the difference 2 years makes.
Right.
Like 2 years ago, he's salivating at New Orleans as a playoff pick. Then they add Lattimore and a couple other nice rookies on defense. They're looking stout.
Yeah, it's totally true.
So I think moving on, we're ready for number 4, Johnny. Who we got at number 4?
All right, at number 4, we got Tom Brady. Okay, I will start this off because don't get me wrong. I love Tom Brady. I think he's a good quarterback. I've actually owned him plenty of times in fantasy football. And still, to me, he lost Brandon Cooks, who was a wide receiver 1, whatever you want to say. I was a big disser on Brandon Cooks going into last year. He still finished as a wide receiver 1. He gets back Julian Edelman, Malcolm Mitchell, and Sony Michel, who they just drafted. So that's going to be a nice little piece out of the backfield. His last 3 years, though, this is really, really, I don't think it's so much of a coincidence, but so each of his last 3 years, he started off super hot. And I'm talking even last year, he had over his first 4 games, he had 1,300 yards passing and 10 touchdowns. And then if you look at, so he's on averaging 25 points a game. This is over the last 3 years. Averaging 25 points a game in the beginning of the season. You take weeks 5 through 16, and that average goes all the way down, especially towards the end of the season, all the way down to 15 points a game. He's known to do this over and over again, where he starts off super hot, and then halfway through the season, it just goes down. And you add on the fact that he's getting old. I don't care what people say. I know that everyone thought he was going to break down last year, and I did too. But when you look at it, like, Father Time is undefeated for a reason. At some point, he's just going to go off of the cliff, and I don't want to be on that train, especially if it's costing me, a 4th rounder this year, which is ADP is right around there. I will pass on him, even though I know that he's going to score me a lot of fantasy points. I don't trust him enough, and the age that concerns me a lot. I am concerned about the relationship between Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. You saw some really, really fishy stuff going on in that Super Bowl. Whatever you want to say, it just looked like Bill Belichick was like, all right, Brady, you want this? You want to show people how good you are? I'm not going to coach, right? And he relied on Tom, and Tom didn't come through this time. And I don't think that's not a product of Tom not being Tom. I think it's Bill Belichick is the master behind all these quarterbacks. And I think
just like Zabo says here, throw his comment up there, Johnny. He's talking about Bill Belichick.
Yep.
Billy B does not care about your fan. That when we probably talk about running backs. But I would tend to agree with you. My problem is that while there's been Bill Belichick and McDaniels and Brady, they have dominated the league. And I don't want to be that guy that says, just for the sake of being right one year, being the guy that's like, oh, this is the year he's not going to do it. I mean, 32 touchdowns and 8 interceptions only last year. That's some great production, Johnny. Gronk will be there. You mentioned Edelman. I keep waiting for Brady to hit a wall, but he averaged 19 points a game at age 40. So is there a wall for Brady? I mean, how's it going, Lindsay? A wall for Brady? I don't think so. I think the guy is probably sleeping in a cryogenic chamber or doing whatever he needs to do to stay beautiful and great at football. So you're not gonna get me to pick much more than 4 or 5 guys ahead of him, at least until we can start seeing some actual aging. So
I mean, you also have to take into consideration that offensive line is not very good, and he just lost his left tackle, who's been his left tackle for a good amount of years. So that is concerning to me. With all those things added up, that's very concerning, and I would not risk my draft capital to pick him up. All right, with that being said, what? Oh, what's up?
Go
ahead. I'm just saying that I think that's all I have to say about Tom Brady. I was ready to move on, unless you want to add something.
That's all I got to say about that.
All right, we're coming at number 5 quarterback, and that is Carson Wentz. I mean, this guy makes me so excited because can you believe this guy was born in 1992? This guy was born in 1992. So he's younger than we are, and he's just balling out in the NFL. All right. He has a YouTube video up of when he was 12 years old, You guys should check it out. It's just like them making random baskets out of like paper basketballs. Definitely go check it out if you haven't seen it. It's kind of entertaining. But look, when you're talking about Carson Wentz, the football player, the OTAs were just this past week. Video came out with him, going through a couple quarterback drills, and he looked phenomenal. I know people are gonna be like, oh, it's just training camp, it's just OTAs, there's no contact, but still, considering the fact that how late he got injured and then where he is now, like that's pretty awesome. And it gives me hope that he will be ready sometime early season. I know that, you have Nick Foles there, so that's a big question. It's like, are they going to play it safe and go with Nick Foles or roll Wentz out? Honestly, Wentz is a gamer, man. And I think if he tells him, like, I'm ready to go, the doctors check him out, say he's 100%, I think that this guy's going to be good then this year. When you look at,
I think when you answer Hannon's question here, what he's got.
Is he back before the season? I don't know if he's back before the season. I think that it will be week one will be the soonest that he'll be able to roll out there. I mean, I think he'll do drills and stuff. I don't think they're not going to risk it in preseason to risk that. Okay. But when you look at it, okay, this guy led all quarterbacks from weeks 4 to 9. Even your guy that we're going to talk next, I won't drop the hint at who it is, but your beloved lover, okay, he had more points than Deshaun Watson name dropper here.
Wow.
Over weeks 4 through 9 with 140 fantasy points. Okay. He only busted 23% of the time last year. When you're talking about from week to week production, only 23. That was 3 times that he wasn't a top 12 quarterback at the end of that year or at the end of that week. He has a lot of targets. He's got Mike Wallace coming in, and I know what you're going to say. Mike Wallace is old, but he's better than Torrey Smith. And guess what? Carson Wentz went off last season, and I think Mike Wallace can double the production that Smith had last year.
Listen, you say I got a love affair with Watson. I was just hearing you talk about watching childhood videos of Wentz. So, I mean, I don't know who's got the more of the love, but I do want to talk about a couple things. And that's the big thing is that Nick Foles won the Super Bowl MVP with the Philadelphia Eagles. They have no reason to rush Wentz back. He is their future. He is their prophet in Philadelphia. He will lead them hopefully back to the promised land more often than. So there's no reason to be drafting him as high as you would have to take him in order to return that value. And so I just feel like Foles, like you would have to draft Foles in order to kind of compensate for getting Wentz if you wanted that kind of return. And who knows if that's what's going to happen. So I don't see him rushing him back. He did rise because of that video you mentioned from the OTAs. And if somehow he had miraculously came back and got work in the preseason, I'd have to respect him. I have him a little high now. I see myself dropping him as more comes out. You hear more from the coaches talking about how they won't be bringing him back so fast.
Okay, right now he's at ADP is 6.07. So midway through the 6th round. And you're telling me you would not take a guy who's shown over weeks at a time, 5 weeks or 6 weeks, that he was the number 1 quarterback, and you wouldn't take him behind a great offensive line in Philadelphia? Because you're nuts if you're saying that you would not. I'm just saying I need to see more before I'm going to keep him at that 6th ranking. But I have him up there. He said he ain't AP. That's because he's better.
True.
Okay, he's better.
At a different, completely position. But yeah.
What? Oh, check this out! What a good shout out! Way to go, Lindsay.
Most importantly, I just told the Mendocino Farms employee who served me my food to check out the Fantasy Whispers podcast.
Thank you so much for the shout out.
Our fellow whisperers are out there doing the work in the trenches for us. We appreciate you and love you, Lindsay. Thank you.
Oh, I love it. Thank you, Lindsay. All right, I will let you start off with this next guy because I know that you're a love affair.
Yeah, you already tried to steal the thunder there a little bit. I know that's how you roll. But number 6 in our combined rankings is Deshaun Watson. I don't know if everybody fully understands how special this guy was during the stretch that he was in there. Before his ACL injury, he was leading all quarterbacks on a points per game basis in fantasy at 25. If you removed the first game, where he only played the second half, he would have been the best average per game of all time in that game, in that kind of span, at 27.7. 168.9 points were the most by any quarterback in their first 7 outings, and that's what he's had. He averaged 4 touchdowns a game before he tore his ACL. He'll have a second year under Bill O'Brien, and historically he should see some regression, but man, can you not believe that in this kid after exactly just like Zabo said, believe the hype. I mean, a bunch of people tried to doubt, and basically Dabo Sweeney said, if you pass on this guy, you're passing on the Michael Jordan of the NFL. And then what did he come in and do? Michael Jordan-like things. He dominated the league for that span that he was in. And I know Johnny's going to get on here and tell you, like, can it be sustainable? If Johnny wants to sit here and doubt the guy and not take him, by all means, in every league that I'm in with Johnny, I will be taking him before he does and making him pay on the times that we play each other.
Okay. All right. Are you done? You done with your fanfare?
I don't know. If you let me go, I will talk about Deshaun Watson this entire podcast.
I bet you will. But here's the realistic. I'm gonna throw that. Okay, we are not a hopeful fantasy podcast. Okay, we go based off of facts, and I'm about to lay out the facts on why Deshaun Watson should not be taken where he's been taken so far this year, and that's in the 4th round, which is absolutely ridiculous. And I'm going to tell you why. Okay, when you look at Deshaun Watson, okay, he only played for so many games. And I understand, was he balling out? Was he the most exciting player to watch last year? Absolutely. I will give that to you hands down. I love tuning into him. Heck, even when you were playing me and you had Deshaun Watson, I still wanted to watch the game because he was so phenomenal. Don't get me wrong. But here's some stats that they don't make sense. And you can't tell me as a fantasy analytics person that you would bet that this would happen again. Okay, I'm going to just throw these out there. Deshaun Watson had a touchdown ratio of 1 touchdown pass per every 10 passes. 1 every 10 passes. That was unheard of. You know who had a better one? And that was Peyton Manning. And there's no way that Deshaun Watson is nearly as good as Peyton Manning. Okay, and then I'm going to add on to that fact that I want to break it down because it wasn't a big sample size to say that, oh, that was sustainable for a whole entire season, okay? So I'm going to look at the metric of points per drop back, which is a great stat to look at, okay? So it's saying that every time a player touches the ball, how many points are they generating per touch? And that's 0.73, right? You say it's never been done before, but I beg to differ. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple stats. Over there, who you just talk about with Carson Wentz, who's backing him up, and that is, whoa, oh, my headphones just went out. I was like, this sounds so much different. And that's Nick Foles. Nick Foles, a couple of years ago when he had that miraculous season, he had 0.74 points per drop back. Okay, so he actually beat Deshaun Watson's drop back percentage or points per drop back percentage. Okay. And then I'm going to up it on that. Okay. So you have Aaron Rodgers who's done it. He hasn't gotten quite up to 0.73, but he had 0.69. And guess what happened the next season after he had 0.69? He dropped all the way to 0.51 per drop back, points per drop back. Oh, how about you don't sorry?
What year was it?
That was back in, in 2001, he had the 0.69. In 2012, he went down to 0.55. Then I'll even, because if you don't believe that
2011 to 2012 is what you mean.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So
2011 when they went 15-1 to 2012 when they lost that coordinator and changed coordinators. So there's some underlying stats there, Johnny. And so far what I've heard is you've compared Deshaun Watson to the likes of Peyton Manning, Carson Wentz, Nick Foles, who just won a Super Bowl MVP, and Aaron Rodgers. So you're talking about elite guys at a certain time frame, and you're saying, you're comparing his stats to people that are great that have done it.
You haven't let me finish. You're like Kanye West trying to cut off me up at the mic, trying to say that wait, Deshaun Watson is the greatest person of all time. All right, just let me finish, okay? Hey, RG3 in 2012, 0.7 points per drop back. And then in 2013, he dropped all the way down to 0.43. Hey, how about Cam Newton, the guy that you were just hating on just a few moments ago? He had actually 0.71 through the whole season, like Deshaun Watson had, except for Deshaun Watson only had a slight through half of the season. And Cam Newton, the very next year, went down to 0.49. There's no way this guy could sustain all of that through an entire year and then leading on to the next one. And I'll tell you why, because now teams have game film. They can really review how to stop this guy. And on a major one, you can ask, even look at the professionals that dissect film. What they're going to do, what teams are going to do is they're going to drop back eight in coverage. And that's going to cause Deshaun Watson to have to really be accurate with his throws, which he's not very accurate. He's just really good at like scrambling around and finding the open guy. So I'm sorry, like, don't get me wrong. Do I think Deshaun Watson is going to be good? Absolutely. I think he's going to be a really good player. Do I hope that he's really good? Absolutely, because he was so much fun to watch. But being realistic and being a fantasy analytics person, you can't sit there and tell me that he's not going to regress, that he's going to stay the same. There's no way. It's been time and time again that we have data upon data upon data. I can go through every single year and name you a guy who the previous year had really, really high numbers. And then the following year, when all this hype was going on, he completely busted down. And I'm just saying, it's not worth the risk to me. You're going to have to give up a 4th to 5th round pick. Go ahead. I will take my guy way later, and I'll draft somebody else.
Listen, I think that we got to move on here, but
yeah,
in the top, last year he was the top guy at the position while he was playing. And so I think he will regress to about number 3. That's my opinion. You can check the ranking.
Well, yeah.
Moving on to number 7.
Yeah.
Moving on to number 7, we got Kirk
Cousins. How about that? How you like
that?
Go ahead and kick it off, Travis. Let him know what you're thinking on your side.
Okay, so Kirk Cousins went to Minnesota. Obviously an ideal situation if you talk about him getting to choose where he wanted to play. Excellent defense, strong running game, plays in a dome for 8 games at least out of the year. I just think that he's a guy that's constantly disrespected in the fantasy world coming into the year. And then you look at it and he's finished the last 3 years as a top 10 fantasy QB. He had 4 rushing touchdowns and 179 rushing yards last year. He had 27 touchdowns and 4,093 passing yards. I feel like he's got better receivers this year. He's got better running backs and a way better defense. I don't see how you couldn't have this guy within your top 10. I personally have him at 8. What are your thoughts on Kirk Cousins, Johnny?
So I really like Kirk Cousins. Like you touched on, he went to the best possible offense, in my opinion, in the offseason. He's picked up 2 really, really awesome wide receivers in Diggs and Adam Thielen. He also has Cooks, which could be like a really good check down and touchdown machine. And then he's also got Kyle Rudolph, who just catches touchdowns and reminds me a lot of Jordan Reed, and the fact that, well, he's a little bit more durable than Jordan Reed, but you like that rapport with the tight end there. He hasn't thrown less than 3,900 yards in the last 3 seasons, so you really like that. He's got a really, really nice quarterback-friendly schedule. So I just don't see him being anything less than a top 7 quarterback when he's been that the last few years. And then he's going to a team that's, Case Keenum threw for 3,300 yards, a little bit over, and in just 14 games. And, I know that Minnesota doesn't have the best offensive line, but neither did Washington, and that's where he came from. So I really do like Kirk Cousins, and I think that I see him projected right around 3,900 yards and 30 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it. Like I said, I think with Dalvin Cook there and the defense that's going to be giving them the ball back, he's going to have plenty of opportunities to score. So I like it. I think we both agree around. We only have a difference of one spot. That could change depending on how other people shake out. So number 8, we got a guy who's been kind of falling a little bit in his career, and that's Drew Brees of the New Orleans Saints. What do you got on him, Johnny?
So Drew Brees, I actually really, really like this season. I think that he actually comes at a pretty good value considering what he went through last year. He only finished as a QB1 4 times. And that's right. I said 4 times out of the whole season. So those of you who drafted him last year, thinking he was going to give you that built-in, QB1 numbers were way disappointed. Nothing he did last year, however, makes me nervous about his ability to perform on the football field. You just got to think about it. They were more into running last year. They had a touchdown to pass TD ratio of 1-to-1. The normal amount is about 2-to-1 for the Saints. I think it will revert a little bit back to, I'm not saying it's going to be a full 2-to-1 with how good their run game is. However, with Mark Ingram out for the first 4 games, I think that they're going to want to pass more to save Kamara's body, even though, I mean, he's right at that weight where it actually truly wouldn't affect him if he were to run up the middle all the time, because he's 215. He's actually a little bit bigger than most people. Yeah, he's a little bit bigger than most people think. And so, but I just think they're just going to pass to save his body a little bit. And then once Mark Ingram comes back, then I think you might see a little bit more passing. But you also have to consider like the weapons that he has around him. Michael Thomas, one of the best in the game. He's got Ted Ginn, who I don't know how he's still in the NFL, but he somehow comes up with these miraculously long bomb touchdowns, but catches like wide open ones over the middle. But then they bring in Jordan Cameron
Meredith.
Yeah, so I do like that pickup. So I mean, he's got a lot of weapons around him, and I just think like if you were watching his game film, there were literally like 3 or 4 touchdowns that Michael Thomas caught, but he just was like an inch out of bounds with his second foot dragging. So you turn that around and you're looking at like a 26 touchdown season, and that's going to put him all the way up at quarterback 6, which is right around where you drafted him anyway. So I really think that because of how poorly he did last year, and teams really worried about, oh, they're going to build it around a run offense or around their defense. I don't think so. I just think, yeah, he's not going to have those huge shootout games. I don't think he has the potential to be a quarterback 1 anymore, but I do think he has the potential to be like that quarterback 5 and give you solid, numbers every single week. What do you think, Travis? You agree with me, or what do you think?
Listen, I hate to do this because I really love Brees and what he does. He's very accurate and he's very efficient. I just think that we're watching New Orleans phase him out. I think that what we're seeing is they know he's on the tail end of his career. They know they have good running backs there. They know they have a good young defense coming up. I think they're going to continue to do what worked really well last year for them, and that's run the football and play defense. They only improved the defense. And I don't think that they improved the wide receiving core as much. Cameron Meredith is a nice addition. I think we say it because it's a new addition. I don't know that it's going to equate to much uptick in the passing game for me. I will say, though, that you're right. Brees was highly efficient. He had 8.1 yards per attempt. That was his best in the last 10 years. And he's always extremely accurate. So that kind of thing, if you need him, he's going to do that for you. If you're stuck in between a rock and a hard place when you're drafting and you need a guy that's for sure, Brees is your guy. I just don't think you can be expecting him to get those massive QB numbers that we've been known to or been accustomed to.
All right, we got a question here from Chris Hannon. Who is better, Michael Thomas or Brandon Cooks? I'm gonna throw this one over to you, Travis. What's your opinion on this one?
Is this for this year, or this was who was better last year?
No, I guess he said who was better, but since we're looking towards the future, who you got?
Yeah, let's talk about this year. I like Brandon Cooks better. I think the offense is built more in Los Angeles to throw the football more, and those swing passes and screens that Cooks can be good at. Plus, he's very fast. I just watched a video the other day of Sean McVay at practice screaming about how fast Brandon Cooks was. I think he's really excited to have him in that offense, and therefore I'm pretty excited to see what he's going to be doing here in LA.
All right,
But
let's move
getting a
on
little
to
off topic.
let's go on to our number 9 quarterback, and that's Ben Roethlisberger. Travis, I know you're super high on Ben Roethlisberger this year. Why don't you try to explain to the people what your thinking is?
Well, right now I have him inside the top 10. I think I would have to see some injuries to some of the other players to realize that he would be anything different. He finished the year on a tear. If you look at weeks 8 through 15, some of the most important weeks in fantasy, because you're talking about leading up to the playoff stretch run, and then a couple weeks into the playoffs, he was the second best QB in those weeks, only behind Russell Wilson. He's got Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Le'Veon Bell. And I honestly think that the Martavis Bryant leaving could actually be a good thing for the Steelers. Less noise in the locker room. They've also gotten away from Todd Haley, who we have seen verbal altercations with Ben Roethlisberger having. And we noticed last year that Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers got better when they ran no huddle, and they gave the keys to Ben Roethlisberger. So who comes in as the offensive coordinator this year? Big Ben's longtime QB coach, Randy Fichtner. So I really like that matchup. I really like the fact that as long as he's got AB and Le'Veon Bell to throw the ball to, you have to consider Big Ben a weak top 10 every starter. And if that's the case, I got to rank him where I think he's going to be at the end of the year. So,
yeah, for me, I want to throw it back to the fact that, again, like Russell Wilson, he does tend to start off a little bit slow. So I personally, if I'm going for Ben Roethlisberger, let's say pre-draft, I determined like Ben Roethlisberger is the guy I want to get. I would personally just let somebody else draft him and then draft like quarterback way later, and then pick him up once that owner is nervous about Ben Roethlisberger, because I think that his schedule, once it gets a little bit more into the season, you'll be a little bit better off, and he does heat up. I do like his offensive weapons. He's got, unparalleled offensive weapons, in my opinion. However, he's never really been able to completely take advantage of any of his offensive weapons. We've been saying this for the last 4 or 5 years. And he's yet to be like that number one quarterback for the entire season, which I think he has the potential to be if he could really start, contacting with those, all of his weapons. I just think that this year they're going to run Le'Veon Bell into the ground. I really have that feeling. I mean, Chris Hannon said it here best, pay the man, but, I know it's a little bit off topic, but I just do think that they're going to end up running him and giving him so many touches and, kind of using him up before they have to pay him, or they're just going to kick him out. Ben Roethlisberger to me is a good patchwork guy. If I'm streaming quarterbacks, he's like that solid quarterback that I have. And then I'm just streaming for other, matchups that I don't particularly like from week to week. I think that he has the ability to throw these 300 and 400 yard games. I just think he's a little too streaky for me to really want to draft him, higher in, he's going right around the 7th, 8th round. To me, I'd rather get a stash wide receiver or running back there, maybe a tight end, as opposed to getting Ben Roethlisberger. I'd rather wait a little bit.
Yeah, I guess I just think that stretch last year, like I said, between weeks 8 and 15 was kind of the biggest time we've seen him do this on a consistent level. And It was more that they gave him more of the key. So I'd like to see that. I'd like to see how this year goes for him. So I am a little high on him. I'm excited for him. So we'll just kind of see how that goes.
Yeah, I just want to say one more thing about him is that if you do happen to get Antonio Brown, I do like that pairing, that double dip. I know it's not a huge difference, but it seems like a lot bigger of a difference when you have those two. And man, if they could really connect for one of those really classic 12 touchdowns, like AB has 12 touchdowns, and then Ben Roethlisberger's giving you 32 to 35 touchdowns and 4,000 yards, that could be monstrous for your team. All right, coming in last in the 10th and final spot, we have Matthew Stafford. I will start off with what I think about Matthew Stafford, and that's just, again, like Ben Roethlisberger. I'm in this area right here where I just think these guys are kind of patchwork guys. I think they're, again, a solid quarterback to draft. if you could get him at the right value, and then you just use that one as your base quarterback, and then you just pick up quarterbacks off the waiver and play them if you need to. Matthew Stafford has been that guy who he always throws, at the end of the season, you look and he's like always throwing over 4,000 yards. But then you look at his touchdowns and it's always super low. It's like 25. And it's just, I don't understand it. He had Megatron, and that was the one year he kind of really exploded for the 36 touchdowns. Other than that season, he hasn't reached over 30 touchdowns once. And I don't think with his receiving core that he has the ability to get up above 30 plus touchdowns. I mean, I would love it if he could prove me wrong, because Marvin Jones is a guy that I like, but I just don't see him throwing a massive amount of touchdowns in order to get that leap up into that next stage of like the top 5 fantasy quarterbacks because of the lack of touchdowns. He doesn't really run the ball that much. That offensive line is not the greatest. So for me, like I said, if you are targeting Matthew Stafford, I don't think he's a terrible pick at all. I think he's a solid pick. I think that you are going to be okay with dropping him and picking up another player, or you're going to be able to play him from time to time depending on the matchups.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with you with Matt Stafford, but he's another guy that's been a top 10 QB for the 3rd straight year now. And so I think that he continues to be kind of disrespected. Then you look up at the end of the year and he's inside the top 10. We're talking about top 10 QBs. I've got him at 9. You have him at 10. So he's in there. Yeah. I think that you keep trying to maybe compare these guys to the top tier. I mean, they're not, these guys at the end aren't going to be those top tier guys. We're talking about a guy that if you're looking at the 10th best QB at the end of the year, I could easily see him being there at about 9. They have Jim Bob Cooter, best offensive coordinator name in the world. They got him back for another year. And since he's taken over, Stafford has averaged 272 yards a game and completed 66.3% of his passes. Not to mention that the Lions have finished 11th and then 10th in pass attempts. So they love to pass the ball under Jim Bob Cooter. Patricia came in, he kept JBC, and I think in doing so, they realized like the offense has to run through Stafford. Anytime you have opportunity in fantasy football, that is paramount. And I think with the line banged up, like you said, without a for sure running game, it's going to be basically like Matt Stafford hucking the ball around, and he has no problem doing that.
Yeah, I do. I mean, you're right and the fact that we're talking about these quarterbacks, they're not going to be top tier. But even when you're drafting some quarterbacks, you're saying to yourself, okay, does this guy have the potential to jump into that top 5? Because there's going to be guys like that are going to go from, they're being drafted from the 10 spot all the way down to the 20 spot for quarterbacks. And one of those guys is going to be a top 5 at the end of next season. You can count on it. It's money in the bank. So it's like, is Matthew Stafford have the ability to be that guy? And I just don't see it. I just don't think he can.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see him jumping in the top 5. I've got him at 9, so I would probably agree with you there. I think that there's better guys that have an opportunity to jump into the top 5 that are deeper or within what we're talking about here. Breeze, like the guy we just talked about, I'm a little more high on going into the top 5 than I would be a Stafford or a Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, for sure. We got a lot of comments coming in here. Matt Ryan is going to wreck your ranks. We got get into the. Damn, I missed the boat, guys. Sam Bradford. These guys we're going to talk about on our next week's show, which does remind me that is going to be next Tuesday, June 5th at 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Thank you guys for watching. That wraps up our top 10 quarterbacks. If you haven't already, please go like our Facebook page and subscribe on YouTube, as well as get our latest podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Play. Just search the words The Fantasy Whisperers Podcast or go to thefantasywhispers.com. Until next Tuesday, I'm Johnny Game Time Hicks, and that's Big Travie, and we're out.
Peace. Later.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Whisperers podcast. You can hear more from John and Travis on Google Play, SoundCloud, and iTunes. You can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at TF Whisperers.